Well, it's been a while since we've meandered around a Swiss cemetery, my friends, but here we are. This is a different one. Haven't been to this one before, actually. Look at the little kitty cat. Quite peaceful here, apart from the damned planes, people going on cheap holidays. Even the dead can't rest. Always aeroplanes. So what do we have? No, she had quite a short life. That's quite sad. Just think, we're all going to end up under the ground or in the air one day. None of us will escape. It's a peaceful thought. All things come to pass. Whatever bad times you're having, it's going to be over. Whatever good times you're having, it's going to be over too, so you may as well enjoy it. Here we go. Oh, look at the silhouette of the cat and the moonlighty night. Very creative, the gravestones in the Swiss cemeteries. We're going on a junk store tour, by the way, as well, my friend. A nice, sweet junk store tour. Hopefully we don't run into any mannequins. Manic mannequins. There's a Santa Claus back there for Christmas. There's some really nice gravestones. I'm going to show you some still photos of some very interesting ones. It's quite nice. The family have decorated it. The two hands are sort of Michelangelo. The hands touching each other. The Sistine Chapel. I can't remember the name of the painting. The elephant there, half an elephant's head. And what is this? Is that sort of a stylized representation of Jupiter? I'm not really sure. Maybe they meant it to be something else. I'm not sure. But they really are. Everyone can be individual, these gravestones. That is sad. There is no markings on the grave, or it's behind the photo, and I wasn't going to be disrespectful and remove the photo to see, but one of those persons is no longer, and that's sad. Too young. Much too young. Oh, look at the grave behind there with these sort of coloured stones. I like that. I didn't really spot that while I was there. Now I can see it. With the musical note. And here we have a Chinese grave. Yeah, I do like the fact that the graves are individual. You know, you don't have that sort of uniform grave in the ground, just a flat stone. Here the people can get really creative. Look at the one back there. Sort of a modern sculpture. I think that's a dog. Engraving of a dog back there. Peaceful, beautiful, apart from the planes. Quite sweet, the sort of traditional angel with a modern surround there. And we have Carl. Carl is looking at us beyond the grave. All very neat too. The graves are always taken care of. Coat of arms. And here I found some old 19th century church bells. I don't know why they've been deposited here. Maybe they got new bells, left them here as a decoration. Very heavy, bronze. It's a wonder the metal thieves haven't been in. We don't have that yet in Switzerland, but I'm sure it will arrive, because they'd be worth a pretty penny, wouldn't they? I can imagine in some countries that would have been whipped away at night, put on the back of a lorry and gone straight to the scrap merchants the next morning. Well, have a look at some of these beautiful still photos. This is quite sweet, isn't it, with the rainbow and the river beneath it? I wonder whether they've made that out of resin or glass with a type of foil beneath it. Very nice. Heinz was obviously a keen cyclist. There he is, cycling uphill into eternity. And Walter here obviously had a little house in the Alps, where he could escape the hustle and bustle. Martha liked geese. I like that, with the dove breaking free of the chains of human existence, the tax slaves that we are, well, the majority of us. Martin, can you see there, he has actually a letterbox. He's awaiting your letters from overseas, pen pals. Isn't that sweet? That's quite nice with the dandelions. Isn't that sweet? And look at the two cats sitting on the window looking out. That's nice. That's a great design, isn't it? A candle with a quartz as the flame. Isn't that fantastic? That's cool. I like that. That is sort of granite, and then they've polished the top part, so you get the contrast between the mountains, the Alps, and the night sky. That's also very simple, but it's effective. Wings. And I like the shape of the hedge folding around it. Isn't that wonderful? That is very spooky, isn't it? The maze, like The Shining. Lydia was a keen knitter. There she has her knitting needles and the ball. Daheim means he's at home. He's at home with the butterfly there. Isn't that lovely? Hannah, I should say, not he. Hannah. Excuse me, Hannah. And that's it. So I would say that now we're going somewhere else. I'm not sure where yet, but we're heading there. So here we are in France. Odette and myself decided to book a night at a chateau. That's how it was advertised, and they had a picture of the chateau on the site booking.com. And that's what you assume you are staying overnight in a chateau. If they show you a picture of that and the title is chateau. So we booked it here. We can only go for one night because of our elderly cat who needs our attention. My mother-in-law looked after the kitty for that day and night, so we could just get away. This, can you see the German eagle up there? This place was occupied by the Nazis during World War II. I'm not going to give the name away. I'm not going to name and shame them because they didn't charge me after my complaint because I said I don't expect to be charged. This is the chateau in question that was advertised. But you don't get to stay there. They don't tell you that. It's very sneaky. But they honoured my request. They didn't charge me, and I've never done that before. It was quite expensive. If it had been a hostel in Romania or a cheap bed and breakfast on the north coast of England, I wouldn't have minded. Look at this beautiful old abandoned chapel. We'll look at that close up soon, and the chateau, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't have cared if it had been a hostel or a cheap bed and breakfast, but not for this price. I will show you the hotel room, but I'm not going to name and shame them. Yeah, it's just not acceptable, the quality of the room and the issues that it had. But we'll get to that. But look at this gorgeous chateau. It really is one of the best I've seen. Wait till you see the details on it, the architectural details. Fantastic. Look at this abandoned chapel. Here we have a relief, a stone-carved relief of the Last Supper. It's magnificent. It really is beautiful. A very strong energy here too. A very strong energy. Now, I thought, because it was advertised as the chateau where we would be staying, and there was quite a few people in the feedback, in the ratings, mentioned the same thing. They assumed they were staying in the castle, and their children were very disappointed after they got there and realized they weren't. So I thought I'd take it. I didn't realize that going on to this part of the property was forbidden. I assumed that they've advertised it as that we can go and have a look at it. And I thought possibly it was abandoned and that we could go in. You will see what happened. Look at these. So they've been carved to look like people looking out of the windows. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that wonderful? Now they've put glass over the door. I'm thinking maybe it's open to the public. I had no idea at this time that people might be living in there. Yeah, so I just want to show you these reliefs again. So she's beckoning to somebody down there. And he's listening in. The nosy neighbour upstairs is listening in to her conversation. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah, so the reception was just, they didn't take notice of the guests. There was a Swedish couple with their young kids there too. They didn't take really much notice of us. There was no sign for the reception. They said that they had an in-house restaurant, so we tried to book. They said the restaurant's not open, only on a weekend, etc., etc. Just list after list. At night time when you come back in the dark, because you had to travel 8 miles to the nearest restaurant, which was fucking awful. The food was the worst I've ever had. Left a negative rating for him, most certainly, and his manner too was insolent. Not all French are like this, I can assure you, but he was. Look at the fantastic architecture. It is gorgeous. So the people living in this chateau were obviously getting the money from the hotel, this disgraceful hotel. Yeah, you come back at night, there's no sensors, there's no light in the ground, so you're stumbling around. I had to use my iPhone torch to make our way back to the room. Outrageous. It really is outrageous for that money that they were charging. And the next day I went to check out. I obviously wanted to complain too about the state of the room. No one at reception. This is like 9:30 in the morning. Nobody at reception, totally locked up. They just don't care. So they're just getting the money from this so they can stay in the beautiful chateau. So still at this stage I'm thinking it's abandoned. There's no sign of life. Strange here, the camera suddenly went very dark when I panned in on this small wooded area, and it didn't recover for that shot. So that once I stopped the camera, the lighting resumed normally again. But I went down these steps. I was intrigued by this little sort of archway there. Wonderful scenery too. I would love to live here. Yeah, so a very disappointing stay. The other chateau that we stayed at, which I did a video of some years back, I did 2 videos of that. That was fantastic. People are great there, the people who own it. It is what it is. It is what it says on the box. This was false advertising. I'll show you that again. That's some sort of ornament that fell off the facade. Yeah, so looking at the windows, I thought it's abandoned. I couldn't assume anything else. I didn't see any people. I didn't see any vehicles there. Oh yeah, look, this is more of this, of these carvings. She's telling him to shh. He's trying to shoot something with his crossbow, and she's telling him to be quiet. I wonder who did those carvings. They're fantastic. I wonder if it's the same artist that did the chapel. And this looks like a sort of, I don't know, an antenna wire or something. I hope it wasn't a live wire and I'm stepping over it. Yeah, it's a shame. If we had have been able to stay in the chateau, then it would have been a totally different story. And I've never requested from a hotel before that they don't charge me. It's the first ever I was that annoyed that they could let that out to the public. And the road coming up, absolutely shocking, full of potholes. So I was just about to leave. There's that ornament. It must have fell off the facade. I'm not sure what exactly it is. I was just about to leave and a little voice said to me, "Why don't you try that door?" Which I did. Yeah, you see, I was just about to go and I thought, hang on, I'll just check this door. Lo and behold, it was open. So I thought it must be abandoned. And so I was going to have a walk along and film as I went. Couldn't hear anybody. And then you'll see, I noticed bats. I thought it was going to fly into the camera, which is why I stepped back. And then something else caught my attention. You'll see the bat. Did you see it there? There, right there. I thought it was going to fly into my camera. And then as I turned round, I noticed the washing machines are on. Can you see the light there? There it is, it's on. So somebody is living here. So this would indicate to me that there are creatures inhabiting the castle. Creatures of the night that live amongst the bats. The foul immortal vampire, Familia Dracul. I must return again in the evening armed with sufficient weapons to fight against this monstrous evil. Yeah, all jokes aside, who lives in a castle with bats flying around? There was quite a few down there. It's very strange, but anyway, we decided to retreat. Odette had already flew out the door. So I decided, well, hell, we must be trespassing. I didn't realise. We didn't hear a sound. Maybe they weren't at home, but obviously somebody is living in there amongst the bats. Probably the Familia Dracul. I wasn't going to sort of venture upstairs and try and search out their coffins. So I went, and we will now show you the room from hell. It's not the room from hell. As I say, for the price, it was not acceptable. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, look at this place. This is an abandoned Perrier water vending machine. Just sort of stuck in. The grounds are extensive, by the way. So this was my other whinge. Yes, I'm having a whinge. Because it took us a long time to drive there. Time and the money for petrol. It's very annoying when you're expecting something totally different because they have advertised it as something different. The gate here, very lovely gate. At night time there are absolutely no lights, and the GPS doesn't take you. It'll take you to the nearest town, but it won't take you right to the hotel entrance. We spent over 45 minutes driving around, and we must have passed the entrance many times, pitch black. Somehow, I don't know how, just per chance, I put my high beams on and suddenly the gate was illuminated. Absolutely ridiculous. No signage in the town directing you to the hotel. Nothing. They just can't be bothered. So then you drive in the dark with all these massive potholes. It's a shame I didn't film those. Some of them are very deep. You've got to really drive carefully in the pitch black. And then finally you arrive at the hotel. The hotel is actually part of the converted stables of the chateau. So you're staying in what was once the stables and vegetable cellars, wine cellars, etc. And they've added some bits on. The courtyard is pretty much original for the time. This is where also probably the agricultural workers lived at that time, and they've converted it into hotel rooms. As I say, false advertising, but we'll have a look at the room. So this is the courtyard when we got back, pitch black, apart from a few dim lights in the background. You would stumble over and fall into the fountain if you didn't have a torch with you. Outrageous. So this is the room with its 1980s wallpaper. You may think, oh, it's not that bad, but for the price it is. With a 1980s 4 bamboo headstead. And it's the details. Once you see the details, I don't know whether you can see this on the camera, but the carpet is so old that it's just sort of riding up in places. It's just tatty old. And, you know, they haven't even given it a slap of paint in all those years. It's not right. Quite a few hundred for this room. Look at the door. Just no care at all. I'm not paying that amount of money for that. Absolutely not. Again, we're going to the bathroom here. And how much does it cost, considering how much they're charging and how many rooms they have? How much does it cost just to get some new tiles and get the grout replaced? Not much at all. And sort of mould as well. Yeah, sort of mould. Just, I mean, they're making a lot of money, and they're spending zero amount on the room upkeep. It's just disgusting. Look at that. And it gets worse. So this would be the 1980s fridge, except the 1980s fridge didn't survive and they didn't bother replacing it. Just one more in the many negatives of this room, for which they are charging a considerable amount of money. So you think I'll have a hot shower and it's just brown. Doesn't matter how long I ran the water for, it's just brown water coming out of the taps as well and in the toilet. That's just not acceptable. As I say, if it was a hostel in Romania or somewhere like that, I wouldn't care. I would happily pay the money and accept that's how it is, but not for a 4-star hotel. I'll have to speed it up. It's just going to keep running. The reason I did this, I wanted to document it because I was threatening further action if they charged me or attempted to charge me for this room. And they must have thought about it and thought, well, no, it's probably best not to charge him because they know exactly the problems that this room has. Look at the state of the fittings for the amount they're charging. The toilet, disgusting. If we had seen this during the day, because we just basically checked in and went out, drove away. If we had seen that, we wouldn't have even stayed there, actually. Not for that. Not for that money. It's an insult. So this is the courtyard early in the morning where we stumbled in late at night. You could have fell over the chairs or anything. It was pitch black. Yeah, this used to be the stables, etc., and where they kept the wine. And they've converted it, but they advertise it as a chateau and they show you the picture of the chateau, which is totally false advertising and misleading. Anyway, we're going to go on a junk store tour now. I just wanted to show you that. Be aware of what is advertised. It may not be what you're getting. So, moving away from Castle Dracul, a little light junking. Here we are. We have some sort of doll's house type setup from the late 60s or early 70s. Of course, the boxes there are newer. A photo of Glarus and the Glarner Alpen in the background. Probably, that's got to be like 100 years old, I would say. My goodness, imagine waking up in the night and seeing that with the garish Italian frame around it. Quite horrible. Old tins here. Some are not so old. That one's not that old. These ones here are Peta or Peta. I wonder if it's obviously some sort of butter. I wonder if they were butter biscuits. Probably. That's a really old tin. Couple of old sewing machines here. That one looks like a hand stitch one. Minerva bobbin. Never heard of that make before, have you? That looks really old, doesn't it, that one? And a jukebox from the 1960s, not for sale. They want to keep it. Any of you recognize the songs on there? Any chart hits from your era? Typical 60s design, quite sleek. Row AMI, stereo round. These would have been in restaurants in Switzerland, entertaining the guests. Is this Russian? Is that Russian writing? That is a child's sewing machine, cast iron. Looks to be solid, doesn't it? And here we have a dispenser for milk. Ceramic, glazed ceramic. Quite nice, isn't it, as a decorative object? Leadless glaze. And this coffee grinder with a beautiful little idyllic scene painted on the side. That's quite nice. That's got to be over 100 years old. And a lantern beside it. I thought this car was original until I saw the back. It's obviously some repro from the 80s or something. It looks like Lady Penelope in the back, doesn't it? $260 for that. You've got to be kidding me. My goodness. Spotted this too. In France, Restaurant American Diner. The reason why I stopped was because of the school bus you can see in the background and the Statue of Liberty. Here it is. Look at that. Quite an eye catcher. American Spa Motel. Okay. Pub Area 51. Here we are back at the junk store. 1950s lamp. I've had one of those. I've sold one of those before. Le Petit Journal, an old French newspaper. That's definitely over 100 years old. And this is a baby's bottle for football supporters so they can watch TV without getting up. Oh my goodness. And for Ruth, this is the German version of the Salvation Army. Marcel and the Stalker mannequin, looking like a 1970s sex doll. Used. How dare you find me again? Just when I thought I was rid of you. Well, these ones look a bit better, don't they? But beware, my dears, because they are mannequins. Their agenda is to take over the world, to take us by surprise. Do not fall for their seductions, or you will suddenly become one of them, coated in plaster, awaiting for the day. There's even more of them. They've arrived by spaceship, ready to take over planet Earth. As I said, do not fall for their seductions. They will beckon to you. They will ask for your help, but you will become one of them. Awaiting the day when the mannequins all rise up to take over and destroy humanity. They may look innocent, but they're not, my dear friends, they're not. Look at them in their primitive spaceship. How did they get here? From what planet did they come? Yes, looking like the master race. Oh my goodness, look at these two clones. It's looking a bit like Hollywood there, isn't it? And quickly to the end here, in a market town in Switzerland, in Baden. Here we have all the Christmassy scene, some schnapps, hot schnapps for you to keep warm. And as we got home, we put the log fire on to chase away the chill. Oh, it was much needed. Very nice. A quick shout out to Amy Brown and Ruth Shelton for sharing with me the mugs that they bought. Look how many Ruth has got. My goodness, she's got a museum collection of them. Alright, my friends, that's it for this video. Take care. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.